All right, here we are. We are back. I am here, and I am here with my good friend, Chelsea.
Time.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. And we go back even before I met Keith, which is just crazy how all the dots connect.
I met you. You were doing CrossFit. I was visiting family. And I walked up to you and I said, I don't mean to be weird. You don't know me, but you have amazing legs. Have you ever thought about competing? And you went,
I was like, no.
And here she is.
Absolutely not. I would get that question so many times. People would ask, and it would be a hard no.
Yeah. And this was, 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't care how many times I heard it from people. Like, it wasn't even like... It was just no. It was just the hardest no you could ever imagine. Just the hardest no. But you are visiting from Columbus right now, but you're getting ready to move.
Yes, I'm excited.
Getting a big move. She just got done competing in 2 shows, correct?
2 shows, first time in America in 10 years. So it was a lot.
It was a lot. I know, but you did so well. And I've been following your journey for a little while, and just your mindset when it comes to competing has done a total 180. Total
Completely.
180. There was a time there where I just didn't think you would ever compete again.
I didn't think I would either. I was hanging the heels up. I was done.
Yeah. What made you decide that you were going to compete again? Because it was after you came back to America, because you were where for how long?
I was in South Africa for 9.5 years, and I was competing there and on and off. But I remarried a active duty military medic who is extremely athletic and extremely motivating and disciplined. And I was in super baby mode and he was doing TDYs and, back and forth from home and work and doing things. And we just had the discussion that I needed to get myself involved in something that I could just throw myself into and give it 100% again. I was like, well, I'm really good at this thing, so let's give it a shot. And I decided also, I never competed from a space of love and nurturing.
Yes.
With that kind of support. It was a different kind of support, and it was from a different foundation than it's ever been before. So I gave it a shot. I was like, I owe it to myself after doing it on and off since 2012. In different parts of the world and never fully succeed, doing well, winning, placing in top 3 here, there, and yonder. And I was like, I owe it to myself to see how I do where I'm at now.
Yeah. Because there's so much growth that's happened. And like you said, you've got a space now of love and support, and the people around you make a huge difference.
Right.
A huge difference. So it's been awesome seeing your journey. And I feel like you're just getting started.
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting over. And I'm not, to be in my mid 30s and closer to 40 than I am anything else at this point in my life. This is where we start doing, life started now.
Oh, I've been talking with Keith about this. Seems like when it comes to bodybuilding with men, they get all of their stuff done in their 20s and in their 30s. And by the time their 40s come around, it's like their careers, for the most part, from what I've observed, it's like it's over.
Yeah.
But women, it seems like they're just getting started. And that probably has to do with kids getting older and them taking their lives back from where they have served their families for so long. And what I love about bodybuilding and women is that it's something that you really can continue to do for the long haul. I love seeing these masters women, 40s and 50s and 60s. And oh my gosh, there was a lady in her 70s that was competing, and the bodies are just beautiful.
Right.
So I feel like that if you are in your 30s and you've never done anything, it's never too late.
No, start now.
Yeah, you can start now, and you can start in your 40s. There's a lady that I follow on social media, and she was 42 when she had her fat loss transformation.
Right.
And then it just led into the competing, and now she's a master's pro.
Like when I was
50s.
overseas, we became friends in the locker room at a gym, and then we went into lockdown, and I trained her to compete. She's in her 50s. She's amazing. She's still going hard at it, and she started competing in her 50s in the IFBB over there in South Africa. No, NPC in South Africa.
And I tell you what, these women that lift weights all throughout, they do not look their age.
No.
it truly is the fountain of youth.
It is.
I look totally different. I feel like I look younger now in my mid 40s than what I did in my 30s.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, it's neat to, I like to play the guessing game. People be like, so, like, how old are you? I'm like, oh, I love this game.
Yes.
Start. And they're like, 28. And I'm like, no.
I know. No one can believe that I've got a son who is 20 and then a daughter who's about to be 19.
Right.
Like, yeah. They're like, oh, how old were you? Like, they'll do that, trying to do the math. And I'm like, no, I was 24 and 25 when I had them. I was like, it's cool. It's okay. I love it. I love it. But you do online programming, nutrition, training. You've got
mind coaching.
Tons of content out there. You can go to her social media. She's got so many great videos, so much good content. I mean, Chelsea's not afraid to tell it like it is. That's one of the reasons.
I'm a little bit goofy.
Little bit, but we love it. That's one of the reasons we wanted to have her on, is because really there's nothing that she's not afraid to, or there's nothing that she is afraid to talk about.
No.
She has pretty much seen it all. And that's what we want to talk about today, is some of the things that we have heard, and it makes our head spin a lot of the times because we've just seen it and heard it so many times and we've experienced it.
Right.
I mean, everything that we were talking about before we pressed record, I get it. These are all things that I felt myself, and I just had to go through it and hear it enough times. So hopefully we will be that person for you.
Right.
To where you might have heard it 100 times already, but we're going to be that 101st, and maybe that'll be the time.
Like, it clicks eventually.
It does. It does. So one of the things is you've got so many women out there who want to change the shape of their body. And to them, they've got this idea in their head of what they want to look like. And they think they know how to get there. So they come to you and they think they just need to lose weight. They tell you, I just want to lose weight. And then the weight comes off because you've put them in a deficit,
right?
Which doesn't matter what you do. I mean, would you agree with that the deficit is what matters over any of the other things that you hear? Or do you find that one nutrition method works better than another?
There needs to be a caloric deficit in order to lose weight. You definitely need to be burning more than you're consuming. But I'm also and anyone that's ever worked with me, whether they're vegetarian, vegan, or not, I'm always going to get that protein level high.
Yes.
Always. Everything in your body needs that. Yeah. And even if it's a diabetic related situation, so many people think, oh, but high protein's hard on your kidney. No, it's not. Sugar is hard on your kidneys.
That's
like, really, it's not. They want you to believe that. But yeah, being in a deficit, but making sure that protein level is high.
That's the thing that I have seen consistent across the board, is getting the protein where it needs to be. And that's where it helps to have a coach, because they can help tell you what your protein and then what your calories need to be.
Right.
That way that if your goal is to lose body fat, then you're in that deficit and you're keeping your protein where it needs to be. Why would you say that protein is the most important macro?
It's the building block of literally every cell in the body. Everything is the proteins are made up. A protein is made up of all the amino acids, and every single component of a solid protein is in some cell in your body.
Yeah.
It's protein and water are the two things we need. And to survive, I mean, yes, the brain we need carbohydrates and we need glycogen, and we do need these things, but in order for our tissues to rebuild, whether it's soft tissue, whether it's muscle, whatever it is, we have to have protein as those building blocks to repair the fibers once we tear them down. If you tear them down when you exercise, well, they need to fix themselves.
Right.
They also need a rest period in order for that to happen. And carbs and fats are definitely not going to grow muscle. They're going to give you energy to break them down, but they're not going to grow that muscle fiber. And if you're not growing and expanding the muscle fiber, you're not increasing your metabolic rate. And if you're not increasing your metabolic rate, you're not burning fat.
Yeah.
So Dr. Atkins ran it in the ground back in the 80s and the 90s. And then there's people like us that we feel like we're just constantly running it in the ground, like do this. There's no magic. It's it's science and it works.
Yeah.
Just try it. But you have to give it like 6 to 8 weeks for it to start happening, because it takes a while to get used to it. It's not instant.
No. And that's where, and I know, like I said, I was there too. I would want to see things happening within a day or two. And it's just not how it works.
Well, no, in your first week of going into a higher protein diet, I would say 9 out of 10 clients that switch, I slowly start to increase their protein in their foods. They get gassy, they get bloated, there's constipation issues. They're slower digesting, but protein's a slower digesting macro. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to slow down until it adjusts, but to adjust at that level, for the gut to adjust and for all your digestive tract to adjust to how you're eating, it's no different than if you never eat Brussels sprouts and then all of a sudden you eat Brussels sprouts.
Right.
Or you don't eat that many green vegetables in general and then you start eating them. Guess what? Everything's got to rearrange and start working differently. So it takes time. You got to adjust through the discomfort, and then you get to start behavior modification of continuing keeping it in there, and then you get to see the results.
Yeah.
It's a process.
It is a process, and you got to trust that process.
Right.
And the types of protein that I like to talk about are ones that are whole food, as little processing as possible. I will hear people talk about the gassiness, mm-hmm. and I'll ask them, what are their protein sources? And a lot of times it's a lot of powders. And I'm like, well, that's where a lot of it might be coming from, because what you're doing, from the way that I picture it, is, when you're eating, say, chicken, or you're eating some steak, or whatever it is that you're eating it, your body's having to break it down. It's digesting, it's sending the nutrients where it needs to go. When you're taking some protein powder and putting it in some water, you are hitting your system
instantly.
And there is no breakdown. There is no nothing. And that is where a lot of the stomach discomfort, the bloating and stuff.
I recently just had a conversation with a client, because I do, for people to get into changing. So like if someone like loves chips and snacky, like salty stuff or crunchy stuff, I'm like, all right, well, let's introduce something like a Quest chip or something, to get them to change their palate. Yeah. And I'm all about it. Like, I eat protein bars, I eat Quest chips, I do protein shakes, but I'm like, don't have more than 1 or 2 of these things in a day.
Right.
And don't have them at the same time. I mean, like if I have a protein shake and a protein cookie, Brad and I are notorious for doing this. Like we'll work out at the Army base and then we'll stop at the shop on our way out and we'll grab like a protein shake and a protein bar. And then we're both like, but like if you have like the protein shake in the morning and then you have a protein bar later in the day, instead of having the Snickers bar, or instead
it's not such a hit to your system.
But if you just throw it in there, or if like you go to the gym late, you have a protein shake, you have a protein cookie, then you get home and you top it off with Halo Top, you're just like, brr.
Yeah,
it's a different.
Just read the ingredients on that stuff, for goodness sakes. Like our bodies are not designed to be able to recognize a lot of those ingredients.
Right.
It's like, but yet we expect them to digest
and just be efficient.
Yes, and just give us all the results that we want. Boom. Right away.
And eventually our bodies do get used to it, just like our bodies get used to the inflammation from all the other things that we consume in prepackaged foods. I mean, people, if you think about the first time you give a small child like a Doritos or something, they have stomach issues. Their body wasn't made to break that down, but you just keep giving them to them because it tastes good and they like the way it tastes regardless of what it's doing otherwise. Mm-hmm. And eventually the body gets used to those preservatives, that inflammation. Well, eventually the body will get used to eating more meat, or the body will get used to eating protein packed snacks. But it takes time.
Yeah. And just listen to your body. Like if something isn't agreeing with you, like you just said, give it some time. But maybe you've introduced something that your body truly just doesn't agree with.
Right.
And it could be one of those prepackaged foods. And you just have to listen to your body and say, not really too happy with the way this made me feel.
Right.
Maybe I should have something that's a little more whole food, single ingredient. I'm just big on those types of things. Right now where I am, because we are pushing food, it's a lot of food. It's a lot of food.
My calories have jumped.
Oh my
by
gosh.
550 in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah. Mine went up by 1,000 this last week. He went ahead and made the jump. He went ahead and made it. And I thought we were going to be building to 4,000. And he was like, I'm going to go ahead and bump you up. And I was like, well, that escalated quickly.
Right.
So it's going to take some time for me to build up to that because it is a lot of food. So I was saying when I was in prep and my calories were relatively low. I mean, they're low. It's prep. You're trying to get shredded.
Right.
That it was, I would say 99% single ingredient, whole, unprocessed food. Now, when I'm in off season and I'm pushing food like I am right now, it really does go to a true 80-20.
Right.
But that will start shifting as it comes time, and it's not a permanent fixture in my diet. So I'm not telling people that you have to do the single ingredient, whole unprocessed foods, and there are stepping stones.
It feels so good.
It does.
Brad and I were just talking about it. We were like, all right, because, he power lifts and he scores amazingly on his PT tests. And he's just I am married to a freak of nature athletic man. It's wonderful. But we both are just so optimal when it's so simple.
Yeah.
And, I having that show 2 weeks ago and then eating like a maniac for the past 2 weeks, basically. I said, we've both said, nothing really tastes as good as feeling good and moving well feels. And I'd rather feel great all the time than have a stomach ache and continue wanting to taste something.
Yeah.
But it takes time to get there.
It takes time, and it takes going through that experience because you don't know.
Multiple times.
Yeah. Because I can listen to you say that, and in the back of my head, I could be saying, no, that wouldn't happen to me. That wouldn't happen to me. No, you just got to go through it yourself to know how your body's going to respond to things. My body, I had never experienced like that kind of craving, sugar craving. I really, really thought. Now, I had seen other people and I had heard of other people when they got done doing shows and they just started eating like crazy. I said, I'm not going to do that because I thought that it was like, and some people, I'm sure they do it on purpose. Right. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I really thought that I could just have one. Oh my God. I'd never experienced the feeling that I felt. It was like I was possessed by something. It was a feeling like I hadn't had since I quit drinking.
Right.
And that feeling where I was like, oh, I can just have one drink. And that one drink turns into,
the cookie. Like you turn into, one cookie turns into the Cookie Monster.
Yes. Yes. Never experienced that. But I had to experience that in order to know what it felt like.
Exactly.
And I will know next time. So like where you were saying earlier, you felt like you were starting from scratch. I like to say that you're starting from experience. Like certain things and
right.
You know better about certain things. When you know better, you do better.
Right.
And I definitely know better now. So I'm going to do better next time. And if I don't, then I'll learn from that.
Right.
And I'll do better the next time. So what would you say to, and yes, we're calling out the women here because we're women and we mostly work with women who are coming to you and they say, oh, it's our favorite phrase. We just want to get toned. We just want to get toned. I don't want to get too bulky. My favorite is when they look right at me and say, I don't want to look like you. I just want to get toned. I have had people say that to me
get that
before.
All the time.
Yes. I don't want to look like you.
I don't want to look like you. I don't want to, that's a little aggressive. And I'm not even on the aggressive end of competing. I guess I am if I have a nitric oxide inhibitor and all my veins are popping out because I'm supplemented up and I'm doing arms and all you can see is just rah.
Yeah.
But yeah. I just want to. So I laugh. I just straight up laugh. And they're like, what? And I'm like, so what?
Because we know what they mean.
Right.
We know the look they're going for. But what they don't understand is that to get the look they're going for,
you have to build muscle.
You've got to build muscle.
It's a recomposition. Literally, the name in my rebrand, yes, it is an acronym for my initials, but recomp. You have to commit to the process to gain the muscle, to recomposition your muscle to fat ratio and to change your shape.
Yeah.
Commit, gain, recomp. And you do it over and over and over. Even if bodybuilding and looking like a bikini, a wellness, a physique competitor isn't what you're wanting to do. To change the shape of the body, first of all, if you come, so like I'm 5'3" on a good day if I stretch when I wake up. And if you're my height and you come to me at 190 pounds and you have like a decent shape on you, but you are overweight or your body fat percentage is well over what it needs to be, you know, we got to get that body fat down so we can see what we're working with.
Right.
See where you build, how you tone. So like, where do you actually start to see things first? So I think that women think that, oh, well, my arms have toned up. No, what your arms have done is you've lost a little bit of fat and now we can see what's under there.
Right.
So then it's what to try to explain to them, no, what you want to do. Like, let me tell you, because I've been you. I was 189 pounds at my heaviest at 5'3" on a good day. And even having a degree in exercise science and studying what I've done and all of that, I knew the science, but I had to go through it myself. I wasn't just going to tone. The journey isn't just to keep shrinking yourself.
Yeah.
You're never going to have the shape you want if you cannot commit to the idea of growing.
Oh, that took me forever to understand. I wanted to just lose weight. I just wanted a smaller number on the scale. I wanted to see that number go down. I didn't care what I looked like. I wanted that number to go down. And when I hit my goal weight, that was when I still honestly wasn't happy.
Right.
I was happy that the number I felt accomplished by, because that was the number. But when I would look in the mirror, my body, it was just a smaller version of myself. I didn't have any shape. I wouldn't even say I looked toned at all. You know why? Because I was in such a severe deficit.
You were depleted of glycogen. There was no shape to the muscle body.
Who knows how much muscle I had lost, because I do have natural muscle.
Right.
Well, we all have natural muscle, but I had more natural muscle than the typical female had. And I knew that. But it took me forever to wrap my mind around that concept of lifting heavy enough weights to actually build some muscle. And that would help fill the body out and give me some shape. I remember hearing a girl at the YMCA. I just overheard her saying this as I'm on the treadmill, and she was lifting weights, and she's telling a friend of hers, if you truly want to change, just like what you just said, if you want to change the shape of your body, you've got to lift weights. And I was like, F that. I was like, I am not doing that, because I didn't want to, quote unquote, look bulky.
Right.
I used to say that to myself, and it took a long time for me to just wrap my mind around it.
Right. It's hard. And it's it's also, I think, is a culture, not even just in North America and in our society, but in other places where I've lived and other cultures and societies that I've worked within. You know, it's been put on us to be petite and weigh little and the lesser. And, you know, God forbid we be strong women.
Yeah. Oh, I would hear it growing up from friends. I had a friend tell me that she was a good friend of mine too. And she would just call me a brute. She'd call me a brute. And I don't know if that was supposed to be funny, but I don't remember. I didn't really take it. It just didn't make me feel good on the inside. And I had a boy tell me that he didn't like me any more than a friend because I was too much of a tomboy for him. And I know I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but hearing those things, you start to think that maybe there's something wrong with you. And then I try and act a little more dainty, or I try and act like some of the other girls who were getting more attention. And
it didn't work.
It didn't work because that's just not me.
I was chubby. I was soft, and and I had fit, small family members and parents, and I was not. Even like cousins, I was always the little chubby one, and in school, I was always a little bit softer. And then I went to high school and I was tiny. And then I went to college and I exploded because of my bad habits. But, I was constantly chasing a number on the scale and trying to be toned and small.
Right.
And eventually, you just get little and fat. And that's what happened. I was a little fat, and it's, but again, it's our culture to chase weighing less and being toned, when what we really want as women is to be fit and have shape.
Right.
And in order to have that shape, we have to be able to embrace growth.
And what is the roadblock that you see being the biggest when it comes to women needing to make that decision to grow?
They can't get past what's on the scale.
Yeah. Because it is going to take eating a little. I even say you don't even have to eat in a huge surplus. It's just toe the line of maintenance. But
and where the calories are coming from, Lane, what is it, Lane Norton?
Yeah.
BioLane. He did a really great little short episode a couple weeks ago. Brad shared it with me about how you can can you build muscle in a deficit? And he was like, no. And like at the end of the podcast, he goes into females and he's like, you don't have to increase your calories enormous, like a great deal. Just increase your protein and increase your good carbs just a little bit and you will grow over time. But again, it's not going to be fast.
Right.
And there's so much research out there. It's just that we don't want to apply it.
No.
And
what's crazy is that the women that I've worked with, they can't get past the amount of food that it takes to get to the calories that they need. Okay.
When it's the right food.
Exactly. So they'll look at the food that I give them and they're like, that's so much food. And I'm like, volume wise, yes, it's a lot of food. Calorically speaking, though, you are eating way more than this, calorically speaking.
Right.
I was like, when you replace your Chick-fil-A number ones and large sweet teas with whole foods, whether that's chicken, rice, and broccoli, or whether it's ground beef and sweet potato and some Brussels sprouts,
right?
It is going to be totally different. They look at the amount of food and they totally freak out. That's one of the things that I've talked with Keith on so many different occasions. I've never actually eaten this much food of this type of food.
Right.
Like, I'm sure I have thrown back 4,000 calories before.
Oh, easy. You can easily you can go to start your day at Hardee's, then go to Starbucks, then go to Chick-fil-A, and then go to a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
period. I don't even have to elaborate on what you order. Just go to those places. You'll hit 4,000 calories in a day.
So, but like, just that number sounds so crazy to some people, but that's probably how much a lot of y'all you're between 3,000 and 4,000 calories, and you don't even know it.
Right, and you're not even burning 1,800 of it.
Right.
Even
but you try and give someone 1,800 to 2,000 calories of single ingredient, whole unprocessed food, and they freak out.
Right.
I mean, they just can't do it.
And it's it's when people ask me, tell me what your diet, like, what's your grocery list like, or what do you eat in a day? I mean, like, it's normal for me to go through 3 pounds of tilapia and 2 pounds of turkey in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
It's normal. We go through anywhere from 3 to 5 cartons of egg whites a week. I eat up to a cup of egg whites a day some days. Mm-hmm. It's...
I do a lot of batch cooking.
Yes. And that makes it
I
easier.
don't mind reheating. There's certain things that I want fresh, so I'll make them fresh. But there's a lot that I don't mind just pulling from the fridge and just heating it up.
But yeah, definitely it's the being able to see what they need to eat to get to where they want to be. Understanding that they might gain 5 to 8 pounds on that scale, but they will lose 9 to 12 inches on their body. They're going to lose inflammation. Like I have this one pair of shorts I've had since 2012. The first year that I competed, I was my first time ever in a size 00 shorts. I weighed 114 pounds. This right now, I weigh 137 pounds and I can still wear those shorts.
Wow. Because
I am completely, my waist is a little bit bigger, but everything's shaped different. Mm-hmm. Back then, they were kind of like me. Like, they're actually cute on me now. But, like, they fit me. I've recomposed my composition has changed.
Yeah.
And I had to feed it. I had to lift heavier. You have to be able to make these marks. You can't just go pick up the 2.5 pounds, the 5 pounds, the 8 pounds, the 10 pounds, and do 100 reps, and then go do crunches on a yoga ball, and then run at the track for an hour and expect that you're going to change the shape of anything. It's not going to happen.
No.
And then undereat all week and then binge all weekend. It's not going to happen. You're going to get in this awful repetitive cycle that's really hard. It's a yo-yo cycle that we hear about that all the time too. And I don't know why we can't drill that in. Like, we have been raised conditionally to live in this yo-yoing cycle, believing that we should be little, we should be wafer thin, we should not eat, we should weigh less. But the image that society wants us to have equals you need to eat better food sources, you need to eat more of it, and you need to pick up the heavy thing.
Yeah.
And it keeps us sick.
You touched on something right there, lifting up the heavy thing. You can't just go and grab the little dumbbells because you're afraid of looking bulky.
Right.
The size of the weight isn't what makes you bulky. It's not.
No.
If you're wanting to, quote unquote, tone, what you're wanting to do is build some muscle, or you're wanting to take the body fat off to reveal what muscle you do have. But what you've got to do in order to build that muscle, you got to break the muscle fiber down
and then fix it.
Yeah. And you've got to challenge the muscle enough to where that breakdown happens.
Right.
And it's not going to happen
in a comfort zone.
Women also think that they're just going to put on a ton of muscle in a short period of time. That scale will go up 5 pounds, and they'll be like, after a week, and they'll be like, well, I'm putting on muscle. I'm like, you did not put on 5 pounds of muscle in a week. Like, there's other factors in play here.
Listen here, She-Hulk.
Yeah. I'm like, if that were the case, I'm like, no, it doesn't happen that fast, especially not for women.
Right.
So you've got to do something to challenge the muscle, and then you've got to do it consistently enough times to where you can challenge the muscle even more the next week. It's the progressive overload
100%
thing. Honestly, it's boring exercises. I've been doing this a long time, and the exercises that change the shape of my body the most are the basic and boring exercises.
That you
lunges.
do over and over and over, but you just increase the weight. As soon as those 30s get easy, you grab the 35s. As soon as the 35s are either, you gotta grab the 37 and work your way up.
Yep. And there's other tricks too. If you're just not feeling the weight, if you're just not strong enough to lift the weight, I tell people you can slow the movement down, slow movement.
Well, and that's another thing. People, if you're just doing things quickly, you're abusing your joints. You're not using the muscle.
Right.
Slow the number one phrase in any session that I have one-on-one, like in a commercial gym setting or in private home settings with clients or in a video, like sometimes I'll train people through video. Slow down. Slow down. It was not about doing it fast. You're going to burn more calories if you slow down and actually use that entire range of motion than you are by just jumping up. All you're doing is you're engaging your joints. You're not engaging the muscle.
Yeah.
You're going to be sore in your tendons and your ligaments. You are not going to be sore in the muscle body.
That's one of those things I've really been focusing on as I've gone back into building mode. Is I'm like, I just want to slow this movement down. I really want to feel it. I want to feel the contraction.
Right.
I want to feel that it's working where it's supposed to be working. Like, I just want to be more mindful.
And literally,
in each session,
I'll sometimes I will put, if I'm doing something that's a single side something, I will touch exactly what I'm needing to connect to. Like if I'm doing like a single leg leg extension, and like I'm really needing to focus, like I really just connect them, put the hand where you're wanting to feel it. Or if you're doing lunges or like a Romanian split squat, use the other hand to like really touch the part of the glute. So if you're doing Romanian split squats and for whatever reason you're hitting your quads more and you're really trying to focus on your glutes and you can't quite get into that position, hold on to that butt cheek until you're able to, okay, there it is. Because that mind-body connection, sometimes the hand will just help you get it there. Yep. And like when I'm with a client and they're doing a lateral raise and they're just raising, I'm like, you are going to tear that shoulder up. Let's concentrate on this deltoid right here. I want you to pull up. Don't swing it. Don't use momentum. Don't use velocity. I want you to feel my fingers right here, and I want you to push against my hand. Close your eyes and push my fingers off of your arm right here, but by lifting your whole arm.
Yeah.
Don't sling me off. Push me off. And words matter. And getting that point across to women, just like getting away from the word tone and shifting their vocabulary for how they train and what they're doing and how they're talking while they're moving their bodies really does help.
It does. It really does.
It's a whole mind. It's a whole, like, your words matter. Your mind talk matters. And that goes into play with all of it.
Yeah. What you're showing on the outside is a reflection of what's going on the inside. The way you're talking to yourself, the things that you're listening to, the things that you're watching. Oh my gosh. So a couple of weeks ago, it just wasn't a good couple of weeks. It was just one of those things where a lot of little things were happening, piling on, and I just felt like I just couldn't get any traction. It just was not a good couple of weeks. And when stuff like that happens, I'll be like, okay, this is just a reflection of what I've been thinking and what I've been exposing myself to. So what has changed?
Right.
It's changed. Well, I kid you not. I know this is going to sound so crazy. It is going to sound crazy, but I do believe it played a part. I decided that I was going to sit and watch some mindless reality TV in my downtime.
No, the number one no-no.
I know. And I know this. I stopped watching, like years ago, I stopped watching the Real Housewives series. I stopped watching all reality TV. I stopped watching the news. Like, I know this stuff. But for some reason, I thought that Selling Sunset would be a good mindless show for me to watch in the afternoons, just for some background noise.
No.
That is so drama-filled. And it was so, looking back on it, so icky feeling.
Right.
And I can't help but think that played a part.
Oh, 100%.
In what I was experiencing those 2 weeks. Because it's really the only thing that was out of the norm for me. So I was like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore.
It's chaotic. It makes everything seem like chaos.
Does.
And when you grow up in a home where there's a lot of reality TV on and a lot of bad news on all the time, chaos becomes your normal.
It really does.
And then when you finally get away from it, and then you think, ooh, I'm just going to add a little taste of it. No.
And I'm also real big when it comes to TV shows. If I watch anything at all, it does have to be a feel-good show. Like all throughout prep, I was watching New Girl because that was a feel-good show for me. I was watching New Girl. I was watching, what else was something? I'm just very particular about the things that I listen to and the things that I watch.
Right.
So it does.
No, it matters.
It shows on the outside, because if you're not feeling good on the inside and you're not telling yourself nice things, then your body is not going to reflect that.
It's not going to respond well.
No.
It's all a system. It is all has to sync, like the synchronicity.
Yes.
That's it. Like your mind, body, soul, your emotional health, your mental health, your physical health, your sexual health, all of it. If any one of them is slightly out of alignment, all of the other ones will not be optimal.
I agree.
And they can't, I mean, they're not always going to be perfect all the time, but the more little steps you're putting towards making each one of them better, the more 1% you're giving each one of them, they're all going to level up a little bit.
Right.
The same as for everything that you're teetering down, you're dumbing down one, you're going to dumb down the rest of them too.
Yeah.
And it all works together, or it doesn't work.
That's why it's so important to just pay attention to your body, pay attention to how you feel when you're around certain things, you're listening to certain things, when you're around certain people. How do they make you feel? You are very well within your right to be like, not going to hang out with that person anymore because I don't feel like I'm my best self when I'm around them. Doesn't mean that you've got to make some grand announcement. I'm not hanging out with you anymore. But you could create some distance and just see how you feel. And if you feel better in the process, then there you go.
Exactly.
There's your answer. There's your answer.
The body will give us warning signs before anything else.
Yeah.
And we just have to listen. And I think that's one thing that living this lifestyle does for us is we're so in tune. And I've been told before, you're too in tune. If you weren't so in tune, and I'm like, you don't understand how much.
Those are people not in tune with their bodies.
Right. You don't understand how much I am able to omit from my life because I am so into, like, I feel your red flag.
Yes.
I get a gas bubble. And I don't, all of a sudden I'm like, I need a Tums because this person entered the room. Gotta go. That one's gotta go.
That's what I'm teaching my daughter right now in her first year away at college. Listen to your gut, because that is something I believe with 100% truth Your gut will never lie to you.
Right.
Whatever you want to call it, whether it's God or spirit or universe, whatever it is, that is what your gut is. That's the spirit inside of you that's leading you where to go. I tell her it will never lead you astray.
Right.
So listen to that. Feel it. If you don't feel right around a certain person, just distance yourself a little bit. Like, it's okay to do that. I've had to do that plenty of times. And yes, I've had people tell me the same thing.
Yeah, but we've learned from experience.
I just know. I just have a very low tolerance for misery. And I'm not going to put myself in any more of a miserable situation than I need to be.
Then the moment that you notice that you're putting yourself, when you're able to see your own toxicity, like when you step into it, like, you know, like watching those TV shows, for me, there's like, I know if I am looking at certain things on social media and I'm about to go down this spiral, I'm like, nope, because then I'm going to start picking at things and thinking.
Just doing that. I'm like, I'll just talk to myself. I'm like, girl, why are you looking at this?
Right. I try to coach myself like I would coach someone else.
Yes.
Like, why are you feeling this way? Oh, because you're absorbing that. You need to stop doing it. And then I'm like, okay, you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Oh my gosh. I was seriously just doing that. I had to tell myself, we're not going to read this. We're not going to look at this. We're not going to do this anymore. All right. So back to our ladies. So is it possible? So I've had this happen to me so many times, and I am almost positive it's happened to you. Someone comes up to you and they're like, I just want to get rid of this right here. And it's usually around their stomach.
Right.
I just want to get rid of this right here. What's an exercise that I can do to get rid of this right here?
So I read something, and I cannot take credit for this. I don't remember who said it. I know I read it somewhere. I don't know whose words they were. And I say that, I'm like, these are not my words, but this is the best way I've heard it put. Fat loss is like taking a hand grenade and throwing it, and it blows up the whole tree. You have to work on the whole tree.
Yes.
Isolation, you can grow one bicep. We can do arm curls on one side, and this side's not going to grow like this side is if we're only training this bicep.
Right.
Or if we're only lifting for this shoulder. There's going to be a little bit of difference. You know what I mean? Like you can, so if you want to have a leg day, if you're training legs, you're mostly other parts of your body are going to be working, but you bow and arrow, you can hit a spot that you can muscle grow based on area of the body, location of the muscle group. Fat loss is an all-encompassing thing.
Yes.
And 90% of fat loss is what you're eating and how much of it you're eating.
Yes.
And water.
Yes.
No, I'm going to take a detox. No. I'm going to go on a 14-day juice cleanse. You do that. Come back in 14 days because you're not going to make it 14 days, I promise you. Not 100%. Like some people do, but like it's not that body fat, especially accumulated around here, is diet related. It is how your body is not processing things. It's stored, and you're going to have to be in a caloric deficit, and you're going to have to move your body.
And it's going to have to happen for a long enough period of time.
It's not going to happen like that.
No, it's not. And another thing that I had heard a long time ago was that fat loss is, picture a paper towel, and you just keep tearing off the sheets of a paper towel. And after, the first couple of sheets that you tear off, the paper towel still looks totally brand new. You have to keep pulling the paper towel sheets off.
Shrink, yeah.
And then before you know it, it's smaller. You can notice it, but you can't pinpoint what number sheet it was that it starts to, it just is so gradual, and it does, it comes from all over. My trouble area is my stomach.
Same here.
A lot of women, it's their glutes, like going back to the competition.
Mine's like my lower back and my butt. I call it my butt. It's the butt above my butt. It's like this tiny ass that sits above my actual butt, and it's just like, it's right here.
Right in my, well, I've got such a short torso.
I do too. And that's why it looks like it's here, but it's actually back here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got like a back
So like
drop.
the top of my hip, but someone said that I had long legs one time, and I was like, no, I don't. They're like, yeah, you do. Here's the top of your hip bone.
Yeah.
and mine's way up here.
My iliac
And then-
crest, it's like this long. That's how long
Yeah.
my little torso is. Like,
Yeah.
meep.
And then there's my rib cage, and there's probably that much room.
Yeah.
So that's just where I'm just not one of these long torsoed
No.
girls at all. And that's just where it all goes. And I just understand that. But it took me being in a deficit for a long period of time. And then
All of a sudden, boom.
it took going from that deficit to a little more severe deficit, because he took me down lower
Yep.
to bring me back up. But we had to get that fat off. And it took some work.
Right.
I was uncomfortable.
And you don't see
I was
it.
hungry. I had to sleep. I had to
I wake
do
up. You
all
wake
those,
up at 2 a.m. starving.
Yes. Like that's what it took in order to get to that level of leanness that I had never seen, had no idea, even though I knew I had abs under there because I do have abdominal muscle. But even at my leanest, like way back in my 20s, I was still not lean enough to even see any kind of definition in my abs.
Yeah.
And then for the first time when I'm 44 years old, I'm able to actually see abs.
Right.
That disappeared after 2 days post show.
Right. Right. They are for a season. And I think that's another thing that women will see, someone like ourselves during a period of time, a season of our life that we have trained. They don't see the 18 months that you worked hard at, or the
Right.
6 months of my prep. They say, oh, I'm like, yeah, but that lasted for this period of time. I worked this long for this period of time for an aesthetic look, for a purpose. That's not maintainable for me. Sure, there are some women that have different type of hormone profiles and they're just naturally leaner, or they,
Right.
they've been extremely athletic their whole life and that's not where they carry their fat and they're
Right.
able, but that's not all of us. And we have to, like I've said before, like I will never be Giselle. I'm never going to be close to 6 feet tall. I'm never going to be tall and skinny. I got to work with what I got. Mm-hmm. And, some people are not going to have a cute little perky butt like me. And then some people are going to have a cute perky butt like me that they are able to keep. Mine's cute and perky, and then all of a sudden it disappears. So then I have to work to rebuild it and volumize back up, and all of our bodies are different. And you've got to give it time. And then one day you wake up and you're just like, oh my gosh,
Who is that person?
like, yeah.
That's what I said to myself. I was like, who is that? And then that's a whole other thing, is getting used to the way that you look when you're not used to seeing yourself in that way. I did not recognize myself when I was getting shredded for the show. I really didn't. And it took a little while for my mind to catch up. Just like we've talked about body dysmorphia before.
Right.
There was that time. And then on the flip side, after the show, as I'm so used to seeing myself shredded, so used to seeing myself just peeled to the bone, because I had to hold that level of leanness for as long as what I had to hold it.
And you're getting recognition and accolades because you're there.
Yeah.
And God forbid you're a normal human and your
I
body
know.
reacts.
And my
like
body starts to shift back into, actually holding some water.
Right.
And
yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm 12 weeks now post show. And I feel like just this week, my mind has caught up with what my eyes see in the mirror.
Right.
But
you're in a much better space now than you were 3-4 weeks ago when I saw y'all.
Yeah.
And,
that was when
you were on your way back from the
we
beach.
were at the beach.
Yeah.
And bless Keith's heart. Oh my gosh. We're on our way to dinner. And
Yes.
seriously, y'all, you just don't understand the look of my stomach. Like, I am seeing that I look like I am at least 4 or 5 months pregnant. And I just
And it's
knew-
literally flat.
I just knew that had to be the reason that my stomach looked that way. I was like, oh my God. I was like, Keith, on our way to dinner, I had him stop at CVS so I could go in and get a pregnancy test.
And after competing like that and being that lean, you probably haven't ovulated in like 5 months. Like,
But he humored me. He humored me, and he took me by and got a pregnancy test. And we went and ate our dinner, and I came back to the condo and I took the test then. And I was like, oh, it's negative. And he looked at me like, duh. And that was when he decided to say, I think we need to have a little talk. He's like, do you think that maybe you're experiencing body dysmorphia? He's like, because I don't see what you're seeing. I'm like,
Right.
how can you not see that I look like I'm like 4 or 5 months pregnant? He's like, I don't see it. It is a very weird thing that our bodies,
It is weird. You know, and
our minds play such tricks.
when I was, because gosh, I competed for the first time in 2012. And every time, so like this time, you know, back then it was really hard. It was really hard after a show for me to put on a little bit of weight again because I was afraid to be back at 189 pounds. I was
Right.
like, oh gosh, you know, but I had changed my behaviors and everything. And then I experienced a couple of miscarriages, and then I started competing again. And then my body came down and it looked completely different than it did in 2012, 2013. My 2017 stage body looked different because I had grown and it looked different. And then I competed again in 2020 and during lockdown, and like, that body looked different than the one before and the ones before. And then I was never going to compete again. I was just over it. I really wanted to just live a balanced lifestyle, which is never really balanced, but you know, you try to get close to it. And then this time last year, I went through a growth. Like, I was lifting heavier. I was eating a lot more. I was also like, we were adjusting to, I was becoming a stepmom, and we were merging our families and getting used to a whole different life and being back in America and all these things. So there was a lot of change going on. So I was emotionally eating, but I was also lifting very much heavier than I had been previously. Yeah. And so then when in March of this year, when I started my pre-prep on my own, I was like, man, I'm excited to see what I've actually built. And, you know, I'll remember we woke, like, there's a lot of saunaing and drying out and removing of subcutaneous water that goes into all of this. Right. And I think it was, I don't remember what morning. One morning I woke up and I looked at my body in the mirror, and you could just it was just like, just veins. And I was like, whoa. Like, I was impressed. And at the same time I was like, you know, but then, you know, 10 years ago, if I saw that, I would be like, I got to keep this. It's got to stay like this. I saw that. And what I could see was a woman who could not successfully walk 4 miles in the South Georgia heat without feeling that she was going to pass out because she was so depleted. Mm-hmm. What I couldn't do was squat with a 25-pound weight on each side of a bar. I was weak. I couldn't, like, I was tired. I was, you know, just, and at that point in time, like, you're not even hungry when you're, you know, getting ready for, you get to a point where you've been hungry and now you're no longer hungry.
Yeah.
And like, you're force feeding yourself to get ready to, you know, get ready for a show. And then, like, all I wanted in this past prep was to be where I am right now. You know, I'm 2 or 3 weeks since my last show. I'm up 10 pounds. Probably, I would say 5 pounds of that is water weight. Yeah. Because, like I was telling Keith earlier, I could literally just sit in the sauna and take Epsom salt baths every day and increase my water and cut my carbs for probably a week, and I could drop half of what I've put on since I came off stage. But again, I wasn't that. Anyway, I'll be more conditioned next year, but every time I compete, every year, it's been better and better. But in the beginning, it was really hard, and I would cry, and I would hate looking at my body. And now I love seeing it fill out. Mostly because when I see another part of me fill out, it means, oh, I can lift heavier. I can do this longer. I can run the bleachers. I can go to I'm starting to do all the activities that I like.
Yeah.
And I'm incorporating the way I like to lift again. You know, like you had mentioned, like, all of a sudden it's not as easy for you to do pull-ups because we start to weigh more.
Right.
And like, my butt's heavy. So like, it's heavier than it was 3 weeks ago. So like, you know, I'm having to lift, I'm pulling an extra 10 pounds than I was, you know, swinging around on the monkey bars 2 or 3 weeks ago. And yet, if I just keep consistently doing them, I'm going to be able to lift heavier and heavier because I'm pulling up more and more weight.
Right.
So I'm taking, like, it's an opportunity for growth, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And if you can, after you go through it, like, this was your first time going through all of this.
I know, I've had no point of reference. Like, that's what I'm looking forward to, is to have the experience. This was a big wake up call for me, that I thought that I was going to know what this all felt like because I've been in a growing phase before. No, I've never been in a growing phase after coming off of a competition season.
Right.
So this is almost like the full circle of it all. So I still have to get through this before I know I do know what it's like to go into a deficit see my body change. I know that, but I've never experienced what I'm experiencing right now.
It's scary. It's like, okay, you did this huge, awesome thing once. Like, can I do it again?
Oh, that's my biggest fear.
You know, and I've gone through that. I did it in 2012. I did it in 2013. I did it in 2017. I did it in 2020. I've done it again. I'm about to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Like, even if I'm not doing it to go on stage, the fact that science is so cool and the relationship you build with yourself, and understanding adaptation and modification through your behaviors, through everything you're consuming, food, sound, people, environment, where you're located, how you're lifting, the environment in which you're lifting in, like, all those components are going to give you a different physique every time.
That's right.
It's never going to be the same. I love
that.
It is never going to be. You are never going to have your 17-year-old body again, ever. I want to look like I did when I was 21. Good luck, Susan. You're 48.
I definitely don't.
It's never going to look like that ever again. You're always going to look different. Every time you build and shred, you're going to look different.
When I started CrossFit, that was a huge leap of faith for me, because it was, you really, you're putting your programming in the hands of someone else. Mm-hmm. And up to that point, I had only really been lifting seriously for maybe 6 months. And that was a program that I had gotten from my absolute favorite book that I love to recommend to people, women, especially because it's called The New Rules of Lifting for Women, but it's great just for the nutrition aspect of the book. But I did the programs through that 6 months, and that was really my lifting experience. Right. Before that, it was aerobic classes and cardio and all of those, types of things, running, nothing serious when it came to lifting. And when I joined CrossFit, I remember saying a prayer, and I was like, God, I'm going to give this a go for a month. 8+ years later, I was like, I'm going to give this a go, and whatever my body turns into, whatever you want my body to turn into is what it's going to turn into.
Right.
Because I had to release, because you really are turning your programming over to someone else. So it was wall balls one day, it was power cleans the next day. Right. And that's where my traps were born, was in CrossFit. I'll have people say, how did you get your traps like that? I'm like, it was CrossFit. Like, I didn't purposely set out to build the traps that I got.
It's just the same repetitive things.
I just did the programming. Right. I just did the things, and I wanted to have fun with it. So I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to not cherry pick workouts, because that's what a lot of people will do. They'll be like, oh, we're doing burpees today. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to not go.
Right.
No, I really gave it a go. If I was able to go, I went. And I just let my body, and I have to do that even now. It's happened I'm like, God, whatever you want my body to turn into, I'm going to do the programming. I'll do my nutrition, and you morph it into whatever it's going to morph into.
Right.
And that served me well so far. So in a way, I'm really excited to see what next season is going to hold when we take off the body fat, but it's terrifying at the same time.
Because you can't see.
No, it is a true testament of what faith and trust and all that stuff is.
Absolutely. Like 100%.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. Like, once I got over the fear of thinking that I would never be able to do it again, or that, I did it one time, but I can't do it again. Like, why do we convince ourselves that we can't do hard things?
I've even said the words. I was like, Keith, what if I'm a one and done? What if this is it? What if I got my pro card and that's it?
That's not going to be.
And I'm like,
case.
well, what if it is? I start to have to ask myself, well, what if it is? What if that's the only? And I'm like, well, that is not. And then I look to my coach, and he's not worried. He just keeps giving me the programming. He's like,
do it.
Just keep, like, he just keeps upping the calories and doing the things. And I'm like, does he not see my body? I even told him time before last with my check-in, I was like, I don't know how you can gauge my process without thinking that I look like a Teletubby. I was like, because that's what I feel like I look like right now. I was like, but I will totally trust whatever you say. And he's very good about not dwelling on the negative talk. Like, he just ignores that comment.
I've never, for maybe a couple of months after a show in South Africa, I had a coach for like 2 months maybe, but I did all of it on my own. I've been completely self-coached.
That is amazing.
Nutrition and fitness wise. Posing I have had coaching on, especially going over there, and posing there is very different than here, and then coming back here and having to undo how I learned to pose there. And, you know, the federations change how they want you to show up on stage, and I had to relearn some stuff, and I had to relearn how to look graceful in high heels instead of like a newborn deer sliding around on, you know,
I found
ice.
my heels the other day. I found them where I thought I was going to be a figure competitor. If I ever competed, I was like, figure's going to be in my division. And anyone I ever told that to, they would just look at me like, girlfriend, oh, that ship sailed a long time ago. But I was like, I'm going to do figure. That's what I'm going to do. Bought the heels, started the posing classes, everything. Thank God that didn't pan out.
Yeah, my walk was the hardest. It was the hardest thing for me to get back down. But it's, you know, sometimes like yesterday, I trained with some of my girls, and I was like, we're gonna do glutes and quads. It was amazing, and like, I was like, they were like hating me the whole time, and then we were like making jokes, and I was like, I wish I had someone to blame, but I do this to myself.
Yeah,
but I've kept up with it, and I've, you know, and I'm pretty self-aware. Like, I know when I'm detouring. I know when I'm falling off. I know, and I will sit there and be very much aware of what I'm doing. Like, I am standing in the pantry and I am going to eat this box of cereal. And you heard that right, box of cereal. And
been there.
And, you know, you have to be aware. And we're not perfect all the time. And people will be like, oh, but I can't do it like you do. I'm like, girl, I'll go sit in the car and eat me some powdered donuts too. Like, it happens. We're still normal. We still do things that aren't awesome and perfect all the time.
We just don't sit and beat ourselves up over it.
I did it. If I want it now, I'm going to have it now, because if I don't have it now, I'm going to do it way worse. I'm going to binge on it later.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's a hard thing to teach and coach, but I do teach and coach that to clients as well. Like, someone will be like, I'm going out to the Mexican restaurant and I really, my friends, I'm like, have the margarita, have the chips, enjoy it. And then tomorrow, don't text me with so how do I detox? No, just go right back to
exactly
egg whites and turkey bacon for breakfast, and a yogurt, and then a protein shake, and then your grilled chicken and your sweet potato and your salad at lunch. Go right back on the plan.
It'll be fine.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sugar and the extra carbs and the alcohol, you're going to retain water for a few days, and then it's going to go away. But it's coaching myself through that. You know, my mom was always very fit, and I watched her train and do amazingly crazy athletic things all my life. I watched her body change. I watched her be disciplined. I watched her meal prep and cook and keep clean stuff in the pantry. Like, I saw it work for someone else. And, you know, I didn't apply it to my life till later when I made the decision I was not a person that could have been told to do something. I had to figure it out for myself.
That's how I am. Yeah.
And, I'm not very coachable. But I'm lucky that I have a spouse that is very disciplined, but also, like, if he wants to enjoy something, he enjoys something.
Yeah.
He doesn't give me a hard time for enjoying something. Like, we joke around and we give each other gears about stuff every now and then, but like, we've had our 2 weeks of fun. He had his powerlifting is done for the year. I say that now. He may change his mind, and when we get to Louisiana, he may see that there's a meet and he'll be like, I'm going to do that. But for the most part, we're done for the year, and we want to both grow into grow. I should say that we're going to grow into a phase of eating well, more dense quality foods, growth, better discipline, really focusing on certain aspects of how we train and what we're doing. Like, I have my glutes that I need to improve on, volumizing, and my quads also. And he's got things he wants to work on. And having someone like, with Keith also, like, y'all are on the same page. Like, all right, we've had our fun. It's been birthdays. We're done, you know?
Yep.
And
I love that what you just said about, if you're going to eat something, he's not going to be like looking at you all weird or whatever, because you're on two different journeys.
Right.
And that is what I love about mine and Keith's relationship, is there are times where he'll have something that's not on my plan, and sometimes he'll ask, is this going to bother you?
Brad does the same thing. He's like,
and I think it's so sweet.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't. The only time that I really lost it during prep of regarding food or something being brought into the house was I started having like food fantasies. Never had those before either. And that was happening in the last weeks before pro debut. So there was like 4 weeks. I really thought that I was going to be done.
Right.
And then my season got extended for 4 weeks, and there was just a lot of mental stuff that was just going on in that time. And so, yeah, the food fantasy started, thinking of cookies and just all the stuff. And my daughter had gone to Kennesaw and she got crumble cookie, and she brought back a whole box of crumble cookie, and I just about lost it. And we're very open with how
at that point you can smell the sugar. You're like,
yeah, like I had to tell her that she had to like get them out. I told her she had to put them in a different container and put it in the back. I didn't want to see that pink box in the fridge. And, bless her heart, she didn't know. And we're very open about how we're feeling about stuff. And I told her, I said, under any other circumstance, it wouldn't bother me. But this is what I've been thinking, and this is what I've been struggling with. Right. So yes, this is bothering me, and I need your help in order to get it out of my sight.
Right. Well, and like Brad, there would be several times when I would be like, hey, or do you want something sweet? Or he would mention wanting something sweet, and I'd be like, so do you want like ice cream, or do you want a cookie, or do you want a candy bar? And he's like, I'm not asking you to bring something home. You're on prep. But I'm like, I don't mind. I literally don't want anything of that sort right now. I'm fine. But like peanut butter, I can't have it around. Like, right. I've eaten more peanut butter in the past 2 weeks than I have in the past 6 months.
Yeah, that was me.
But it's,
and you know why seriously, because it doesn't seem like it's that unhealthy. It's not like I'm sitting down eating a bunch of, candy or a bag of chips. It's peanut butter, right? And I'll think that I can just have a little bit, and then it turns into a lot. And calorically speaking, I mean, you cannot get much more calorically dense than peanut butter.
Right. And, it's nuts, peanuts, all that. And one of the reasons that we want that so much, like one of the reasons that peanuts, peanut butter, nut butters of any sort, and chocolate, the reason that those things are like such a thing in the fitness industry is because when we crave those things, it's because we are actually needing minerals, the trace elements that are in it, the magnesium, the zinc, things that are found in the dirt. Yeah. What's most closely palatable to dirt? Chocolate and peanuts. And the combination, like, one, we get little traces of those things from it, but two, it's also that combination of sugar and fat is just a huge dopamine kick.
Yes.
And but yeah, it's nice when you're around people that are understanding and that respect that you're in that space. And then it's also nice that you're a nice person and you're like, I don't want it, but you can have it. Or being able to sit down and be like, listen, this is where I'm at and this is what I'm feeling. It has nothing to do with you, and it's not a reflection of what you've done.
Right.
But I just need to not see that right now.
Communication is huge.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in a caloric deficit or when you're in a caloric surplus, just communication in general is awesome for the people around you, because your body and your mind, really, you're going through things you've never been through before. And like what we were talking about earlier, you're literally building a new body. Mm-hmm. So when you do build and then you go to take the weight off, take the body fat off, you have built it. You don't know what it's going to feel like.
Right.
So just communication with the people around you, whether you're going, family outing and it does not fit into your plan that day. So you mentioned the word balance earlier. To me, where I am right now, balance is if there's an important birthday. And when I say important birthday, I don't mean, my cousin's best friend's daughter's birthday.
Right.
You know what I mean? Keith's birthday was this week.
Right.
I had some cookie cake.
Right.
That's balance. Not indulging with every single special occasion.
Right.
Because that's what a lot of people will do.
Well, and that's what I do talk a lot about that too with my clients and in social media, like on my Instagram and a couple different like videos I've put out about, like, one of the reasons that we fail on our fitness journeys is that we don't manage ourselves around treats and food and gatherings.
Right.
You can choose those. You don't have to go to every aunt, uncle, cousin gathering. You don't.
Right.
And if you do, you can take your own food with you. If it offends them, that's a them problem.
Exactly.
And if you can't say, hey, aunt, uncle, so-and-so, listen, I am doing something for my health right now, whether it's for health or an event or sport. Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, you know, when a NBA star shows up with his own food, no one's like, hey, Kobe, don't you want to eat what we're eating? No one's going to ask him a question. I need you to not question what I'm doing. Like, I'm doing this for me. It has nothing to do with you.
Right.
I love everything that's on this spread. I would love to eat it, but I know right now if I eat that, I'm going to be very unwell and my stomach's going to hurt and I'm not going to feel well. And you don't get to experience that because you eat like this all the time. And that's great that you are okay with that life and you're in a place where you're fine. I am currently not there. It's not personal. This is what I put in my mouth and in my body. That's personal to me.
I just wish people would let me eat what I want to eat.
Right. It's none of your business.
I know.
Like, I will show up to a restaurant. So we, like, during prep, like, we had some military dinners, or we would meet up with friends a couple times, and I would order whatever salad was on the menu, and I brought my own 0-calorie dressing and my own tilapia, like, in my purse. And I would tell the waitress, like, straight up, like, hey, listen, I do have a piece of meat and some hard-boiled eggs in my bag that I'm going to put on what I'm ordering, you know? Or I would go somewhere and find, you can find something on a menu. You literally can. You can ask for, can I have grilled dry? If you go to a decent restaurant, you can ask for any piece of meat grilled dry, which means it doesn't have oil or butter on it.
Right.
And there's always a salad. There's a leaf of some sort, a rice,
That's
or
right.
a potato of some sort that you can get without, you know, and people have a hard time adapting to that. And it's a behavior change.
It is. It's something that you're just not used to doing. The momentum is just going in one direction and it's going so fast. It doesn't mean that you can't shift that momentum. Doesn't mean that you can't make a different choice. It's just going to feel a little weird at first. But just like anything else, you'll get used to it. You'll feel better for it.
And you're always going to have people
run.
that criticize you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you're that person. Way to make everyone else feel bad about their, I'm like, that's on you.
I always say that other people's reactions to you are just a mirror of how they're really feeling on the inside.
Like, it's fine. Thank you for letting us all understand how you feel.
Right.
Now back to what I'm doing.
Exactly. I love all of those tips. You just gave some really good tips there at the end for people going out to eat. Keith was doing that in a video the other day, and oh my gosh, people were they were like, just enjoy. It's like, you're not our target audience. Like, you're not who we're talking to. Like, if you want to go enjoy, fine. But there are some people that they may not be prepared to go out to dinner tonight, and they need an option.
Right.
They need to figure out what to do. Or maybe they've got a long standing, we're going to go to this restaurant every single week, and you just can't indulge every single week.
Right.
So you might leave us alone. Let them help some people. Let them help. Because I'm just all about the stepping stones. You're not going to go from, eating this one way that you've been eating for years to eating all of a sudden this super quote unquote clean way in such a short period of time. There are stepping stones, and I've taken the stepping stones. I know you've taken stepping stones. And if people can share what those things are and just make it a little easier on someone who's real overwhelmed, then.
Well, and also to understand, like you said, you're not going to be 100%. You're not just going to fall into 100% clean eating or out of how you've been eating. So if you're a person that doesn't necessarily pay attention to your nutrition and you eat whatever you want for the most part, there are moments throughout your week where you do have the salad or the low carb wrap. Yeah. Just like when you eat clean, there are moments where you have the chili cheese fries or the cupcake. There are those variants. There are those, things that happen, and it's not perfect. It's not 100% perfection all the time. But the more precise you want your outcome to be, the more precise you have to be in every single thing that you do every day to get there.
I love
your precision is only going to be as precise as you allow it or determine it to be.
That's right. I love that. Well, Chelsea, where can people find you?
I am 99% of the time, always on Instagram at Commit Gain Recomp. It's all one word, COMMITGAINRECOMP. And on Facebook, I'm just growing that account, but mostly on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on y'all's pages because I've been tagging in, and y'all have been really wonderful support for me getting back on the wagon this year, and it's just been wonderful to reconnect with y'all and to network and get involved with like-minded people.
Oh, I know. We
great.
Just love you, and I'm so glad that we reconnected.
Yes.
And so glad that we've just gotten to talk about this stuff.
And there's more to come.
There is. So we're definitely going to do this again, for sure. And then we've got some other things up our sleeve down the road, for sure.
Excited.
But thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
this
you.
was wonderful.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you next time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for listening to another episode. If you receive any value from the show, please share, subscribe, and give us a rating.